The red alarm light was already spinning when Michael opened his eyes. The whole cell glowed the color of blood. A siren screamed down the concrete hall. Locked down. Everybody faced the back wall, a voice shouted through the speaker. Michael's heart slammed in his chest. He was in ADX Florence, the world's most secure prison, where every door was steel, every move was watched, and every mistake could cost you your life. Even the air felt like it was under control. He heard boots pounding closer. Somewhere down the range an inmate was screaming, "I didn't do anything. Don't gas me." Then came the sharp hiss of pepper spray and the heavy thud of bodies hitting the floor. Orders. Coughing. Metal clanging. A man groaning in pain. Michael stood in the middle of his tiny cell, hands on his head, facing the gray back wall like they had trained him his first day. The camera in the corner watched his every move. He could feel it like an eye made of glass. The speaker on his wall crackled again. C-Unit, Cell 17, prepare for extraction. Cell 17. That was right next to him. Ray's cell. The only voice Michael ever heard. "No," Michael whispered. He heard the crash of a shield hitting the neighbor's door, the loud pop as it opened, and then a storm of shouting. Ray screamed once, short and sharp, and then it went quiet. Boots turned. Stopped. The guard at the front of the line yelled, "Next! C-Unit, Cell 18, prepare for extraction." Michael's cell. He took a breath, staring at the blank wall, knowing that in seconds the door would open, a whole team in black armor would rush in, and his life inside the world's most secure prison was about to change in a way he could not stop. But how did he end up here, in a place built to never let anyone out, not even for a second? And what really happened to make the officers come for him tonight? To understand that, we have to go back to the day Michael first saw ADX Florence. It was early morning when the bus rolled through the Colorado desert. Michael sat in chains, hands to his waist, feet to the floor, a thick chain around his belly. Every window had metal mesh over it so the sky looked like it was trapped too. "Inmates, listen up," a marshal said from the front. "You're going to the administrative maximum facility. ADX Florence. You've heard the stories. Believe them." The bus went through one gate, then another, then another. Tall fences with razor wire, cameras on poles, towers with dark windows. Everything was gray or brown, like the land itself had given up. Michael had been in prisons before. But this felt different. He couldn't hear anyone yelling, couldn't see anyone walking in the yard. It was quiet. Too quiet. "This is the Supermax of Supermaxes," the marshal said. "You try anything here, you're only hurting yourself." When they took him off the bus, the air smelled like dust and metal. Officers in heavy vests led him inside, step by slow step. Doors opened with loud buzzes and closed behind him with deep, final booms. Each one sounded like a piece of his old life being sealed away. Inside, the walls were thick concrete. No soft edges. No bright colors. Just gray, white, and the sharp yellow of warning signs. Cameras watched from every corner. They brought him to intake. "State your name," an officer said. "Michael Brooks." "You are now inmate Brooks, number?" The officer read out the long number, then looked up. "At ADX, you spend about 23 hours a day in your cell. You follow the rules, you get your hour of rec in a yard alone. You break the rules, you lose that. Clear?" Michael nodded. "I need to hear yes, sir." "Yes, sir," he said quietly. They gave him a thin mattress, a blanket, a roll of toilet paper, and a few small things. No pictures. No books yet. Just the basics. Then they walked him down the long, echoing hallway to his new home. His cell was not big. Maybe the size of a small bedroom, but it felt smaller because everything was built into the walls. Concrete bed. Concrete desk. A steel toilet and sink. A narrow window so high up he couldn't look out of it, only see a sliver of sky when the light was just right. The door was solid steel with a little glass window and a food slot. "Face the back wall," the guard ordered. Michael turned around. He heard the cuffs click off one at a time. The door closed. The loud electronic lock snapped shut. He was alone. The first hours in ADX Florence felt like days. Michael walked from the front of the cell to the back, counting his steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, turn, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He did it again and again until the numbers blurred. A camera in the ceiling watched. A microphone picked up every sound. If he coughed, they heard. If he shouted, they heard. If he whispered, they might still hear. Food came 3 times a day through the slot. No dining hall. No sitting with other people. Just a tray sliding in on a small metal door. Sometimes he heard keys and steps in the hallway, but he almost never heard another inmate's voice. Almost. One night, when the lights were dim, Michael was lying on his back, staring at the ceiling. He heard a soft tap 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 on the wall. Then a pause. Then tap 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 again. He sat up. "Hello," he whispered. A low voice answered through the vent. "New guy?" "Yes." "Name?" "Michael." "Ray," the voice said. "Cell 17. Don't yell. They don't like that." Michael felt a strange warmth. Another human being. "Is it always like this?" he asked. "This is life in ADX Florence," Ray said. "You think the walls are hard? Wait till the silence gets inside your head." Days turned into weeks. The routine never changed. Wake up. Count. Breakfast slot. Sit. Think. Stare. Maybe a book if he was lucky. Sometimes he got his 1 hour of exercise in a concrete yard called a dog run, high walls all around with only a strip of sky at the top. Still alone. Still watched by cameras. Highs and lows came in small ways. A low, when his radio broke and he had nothing to listen to but his own thoughts. A high, when a guard dropped a newspaper by mistake and it slid halfway into his cell. Before they took it away, he saw one tiny picture of a city skyline full of lights and life. It hurt, but it also reminded him the outside world still existed. Another low, once he yelled at the camera begging for more books. He didn't curse, he just begged. The next day he lost his rec time for a week. Disruptive behavior, the paper said. Another high, Ray told him one night, "You're not invisible, Mike." "I hear you. That means you're still here." They talked in low voices through the vent when they could. They told short stories about childhood, about cars, about favorite foods. Simple things. Old memories became treasures. But ADX Florence was not just about being alone. It was also about control. Every sound meant something. Every officer move could be a warning. One afternoon, while Michael was doing push-ups, the speaker snapped on. "C-Unit, stand by for special movement." Special movement meant someone important was leaving their cell. Maybe going to the hospital, to court, or to a special meeting. The whole unit had to lock down for that one person. Michael pressed his ear to the door. He heard the shuffle of chains, the clink of locks, the murmur of radios. Ray's voice slid through the vent. "Hear that? That's what power sounds like here. One man moving, 50 doors staying shut." That night, Ray sounded different. "You ever hear about transfers?" he asked. "Transfers?" "Yeah. Out of here. To a less hard prison. Some guys get it if they behave for years. Some get visits from lawyers, from the feds. Deals. Information. You never know." Michael thought about that for hours. A transfer felt like a dream, but it was a dream that kept him going. Weeks later, a guard slid a paper through his slot. "Review," the guard said. "Be ready tomorrow." The paper said, "Case review, possible status change." Michael's hands shook as he read it. Could this be his chance to leave the Supermax of Supermaxes someday? He pressed the paper to the wall and whispered through the vent, "Ray, I got a review." Ray laughed softly. "See? Told you. Maybe you're closer to the door than you think." For the first time since he arrived, hope slipped into Michael's cell. It was tiny, but it was real. The next day the routine felt different. When he washed his face in the steel sink, he looked at his reflection and tried to stand a little straighter. When the breakfast tray came, he actually tasted the food. But life in ADX Florence never stayed calm for long. That night, just as lights out hit and the unit went quiet, Michael heard a crash from far down the range. Then yelling. A guard's voice on the radio, urgent and sharp. Another alarm started, this one high and fast. "Incident in B Unit, Yard 2, someone shouted. The siren wailed. Heavy doors locked all at once. The whole building seemed to tighten. Michael's heart raced. Incidents here were rare, but when they happened, everyone paid the price. More lockdowns. More searches. More eyes on every tiny move. Hours later, when the noise had mostly died down, Ray's voice came through the vent, low and tense. "Mike, they think somebody tried to hurt an officer. Up top is furious. They're coming through all the units. Shakedowns. Maybe transfers." "Transfers?" Michael said. "You mean like out? Or deeper in?" "Could be anything," Ray replied. "But when ADX gets scared, nobody sleeps easy." The next thing they heard was the heavy thud of boots starting at the far end of the hall, moving cell by cell, closer and closer. "Shields. He's. Orders." The alarm light snapped on over Michael's door again, bathing the cell in red. "C-Unit, prepare for full extraction and search," the speaker boomed. The boots stopped at Ray's door. Michael listened as they took his only friend. Then the boots turned and marched one step farther. They stopped right in front of Michael's cell. "Inmate Brooks," a deep voice called out, "this is a cell extraction. Face the back wall. Do not move." Michael's hands shook as he placed them on his head and stared at the gray concrete, feeling the whole weight of the world's most secure prison leaning on his back. Behind him, metal scraped, locks clicked, and the steel door began to open. The steel door rolled open with a heavy clank that shook the whole cell. Michael kept his hands on his head, facing the back wall just like they demanded. He could hear the sound of armored boots stepping inside behind him. 1, 2, 3, 4 pairs at least. "Cell secure," a voice said from behind a helmet. "Proceed." Michael felt the air shift as one of the officers stepped closer. Even without looking, he could picture them. Thick black armor, bulletproof vests, helmets with clear shields, gloves, knee pads, like soldiers in a war zone. That was how ADX handled everything. Maximum force. Zero risk. He heard the officer say, "Inmate Brooks, do not move. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir," Michael whispered, trying to keep his voice steady. A second officer spoke, this one calmer but still strict. "We're moving you for a full search. You will follow directions exactly. No sudden movements." Michael nodded, still staring at the wall. He could feel the camera's eye watching every inch of him. "Step back 2 steps. Slow." Michael stepped back. His foot brushed the edge of his bed. "Place your hands through the restraint slot." Michael lifted his hands slowly and slid them into the small metal box built into the door. He felt cold steel cuffs clamp around his wrists, tight but not painful. Then he heard the officer say, "On your knees." Michael went down. He felt hands on his shoulders guiding him backward, steady and controlled, until he was lying on the floor. They checked his ankles next. More cuffs. No room for resistance, not here. "Stand," the officer ordered. He followed, and 2 of them held him by the arms, not roughly, but firmly enough that he knew they wouldn't let go if anything happened. They led him out of the cell. Michael saw a flash of red alarm lights painting the hallway in sharp color. Every cell door around him stayed shut. Other inmates probably watched through tiny windows, silent shadows trapped in concrete boxes. The team walked him down the hallway toward a room he had never seen before. It had been hidden behind so many locked gates that most inmates only knew rumors about it. As they reached the small search chamber, one of the officers opened the steel door with thick gloves. "Inmate Brooks entering," he reported. They brought Michael inside and sat him down on a metal stool fixed to the floor. It was freezing cold, and the room echoed slightly, like a place meant for questioning, even though they rarely questioned anyone here. The door closed behind him with a boom. A different officer stepped in front of him. Not the extraction team, someone higher up. Wearing a uniform with more badges. A look that said he had seen 1,000 inmates and remembered none of them. "Brooks," he said. "You're here because of an incident elsewhere in the facility. Not because you did anything wrong." Michael stared at him, confused. The man continued, "When an officer is threatened, we lock down the entire building. We search every cell. Every inmate. Standard procedure." Michael nodded slowly. "Yes, sir." The officer's eyes stayed on him, studying him like a puzzle piece that didn't quite fit. "Your review is tomorrow," he said. "I want you to focus on that. Not this. Understood?" "Yes, sir." He didn't know why the officer was telling him this. Officers didn't usually offer words like that. Maybe they were trying to keep him steady. Maybe they knew he was close to losing it. Maybe they just wanted order. The officer nodded to the team. "Return him to his cell." They walked him back down the long hallway. Ray's door was still open. His cell looked empty except for the rolled-up mattress and the open cabinet where they were searching. Michael's chest tightened. "Where's Ray?" he whispered. One of the guards answered without looking at him. "Segregation until further notice." Segregation. A place even more isolated than ADX cells. No vent talking. No neighbor. Nothing. Michael swallowed hard as they pushed him gently into his own cell. The door slammed behind him with the final sound of a prison that never forgot to be loud. He stood alone in the middle of the room, still wearing cuffs. The officer reached through the slot. "Hands?" Michael lifted his wrists. The cuffs clicked off. His ankles were freed next. "Stay calm until count," the officer said. "Lights out in 2 hours." Then he walked away. The quiet hit Michael like a wave. The silence of ADX wasn't just the lack of sound, it was a feeling, something heavy like the walls were thinking. Watching. Waiting. Michael sat on his bed. For the first time since he got here, he felt truly alone. Hours passed with no voice from the vent. No tapping. No Ray. He didn't realize how much he needed that voice until it was gone. He lay back on his bed, staring at the tiny rectangle of sky high up on the wall. The world outside looked peaceful, like nothing dangerous had ever happened. But down here, inside the world's most secure prison, danger never went away. Later that night, after lights dimmed and the unit quieted, Michael sat up suddenly. He heard something, soft but clear. Tap, 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 tap. His heart raced. "Ray," he whispered. Tap, tap, tap. Michael pressed his ear to the vent. "Ray, is that you?" A whisper finally came through, weak, breathy, almost shaking. "Mike, listen, they moved me, something's wrong?" Michael leaned in closer. What's wrong?" The whisper came again, even softer. "The incident earlier, it wasn't what they said. Mike, they think someone here is planning something." Michael's chest tightened. Planning what? But before Ray could answer, heavy boots clattered down the hallway again, fast, urgent. Michael froze. So did Ray. The boots stopped right outside Michael's cell. A guard shouted, "Brooks? Stand at your door." Michael hurried forward, heart pounding. The guard stared through the glass, eyes sharp. "Your review tomorrow has been moved. Effective immediately. Pack your things." Michael blinked. "Pack? For what?" The guard's voice dropped lower. "You're being transferred." Michael's blood ran cold. Transferred? Where? Why now? The guard didn't say. But behind him, Ray whispered through the vent one last time. "Mike, don't go, something's happening." And before Michael could answer, the boots marched away, leaving him standing alone in the dim cell, staring at the door, knowing his life inside the world's most secure prison was about to change again. And not knowing whether the transfer would save him or end everything.